Good afternoon, peeps. Agent Matt Hat here, and we're here for the third installment of Wake the Fuck Up. Um, Wake the Fuck Up has kind of become my series where I just talk about shit that's pissing me off, or either go on a kind of pseudo spiritual rambling, talk about consciousness, talk about awareness. That's why I chose the title Wake the Fuck Up. Being aware of things, spreading awareness of different issues and different principles that are at work in our world and in human consciousness in general. Um, so the first episode was kind of like an introduction, just a random rant. The second, Wake the Fuck Up, was just about consciousness in general and changing the consciousness. And this episode is kind of going to go back to some of the issues of the first episode. Where we talked about the LGBT community, and we talked about the Federal Reserve. I don't know if we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve that much in this video, but for this video I want to kind of focus on some of the presidential candidates, this stupid ass law that was passed in North Carolina called House Bill 2, maybe a couple of other things here, maybe the mainstream media, and revolution, how revolution is accomplished, what kind of revolution is necessary, and how we bring about a revolution, which is what many people are wanting and many people are needing. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start off with the presidential election and some of the presidential candidates. Now, I've already made a video about Donald Trump. When I made that video, I wasn't exactly sufficiently well researched on all the aspects of his campaign. I just heard him bitching about and bragging about how he's going to make the wall 10 feet higher, every time Mexican presidents to tell them they're not going to pay for it. Oh, the wall just got 10 feet higher, 10 feet higher. But now that I'm more well read up on his campaign and more informed on it, I still hate the motherfucker, and I hate him even worse. What blows my mind about this is that there's, number one, Christians, number two, women, and number three, I don't know, are there any? I've never met one, but I think there's probably even some black people that support Donald Trump. What the fuck? How can you be a woman and support this motherfucker? That's what I want to know. And the only Trump supporters that I've seen posting about Trump on my Facebook are women. That's the fucked up thing about it. I have a lot of friends on Facebook, and well, a decent amount, but I haven't seen a lot of men posting about Trump. Most of the men and guys on my Facebook are Sanders supporters, and most of the women too, but there's been 3 distinct occasions where I've seen women post in favor of Trump. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Do you not have any self-respect to vote for a guy that's fucking obviously sexist? It's obvious. You don't even have to look that deeply into his history to know that. I mean, I don't know. He's not a Republican. People that think he's a Republican are fucking just ignorant. They haven't studied the fact that he's been a Democrat. He's been pro this issue and against this issue. He's probably been pro gay marriage, anti gay marriage. He's been, he's a Christian when you want him to, when the audience is right. He's probably not a Christian when the audience, he's an actor in a reality TV show. He's playing you motherfuckers. Anyway, that's enough on Trump. So how about the Bernie Sanders crowd, huh? With which I'm a part of. People, I hear this shit all the time when I talk to people about Bernie. I hear this shit about it's unrealistic, or either it's socialism. It's been proven that socialism doesn't work. People cite that it's proven that socialism doesn't work. Oh, really? Really? It's proven. What about the system of healthcare in Canada and Denmark and every other developed free country in the fucking world? How about did it work for them? When they're talking about socialism, they're using these scare tactics of where the government's going to start running everything. If we let the government run our health care program, then they're going to have to start telling you what you can and can't do, in businesses. Look, motherfuckers. They already exercise sufficient amount of control. They don't need any more control. You get caught without a license, guess what? You're going to fucking jail. Or be fined, or if you drive drunk, which I don't think that should be legal to drive drunk, but I'm just saying, there's police everywhere. If you go over the speed limit, technically, I think they can technically pull you for 1 or 2 miles over. They won't most of the time, but I think they technically can for 1 or 2 miles over. I don't think it has to be 5. I don't think that's the law, but I think that usually they won't until 5 miles over, but they can. If you don't send your kids to school, you're gonna hear from the fucking government. If somebody reports you to Child Protective Services or to this or DSS, whatever the fuck it's called, they're gonna come do an investigation on you whether you've done anything or not. We're the victims of government influence and government over. The government oversees everything anyway. So what are you bitching about with this socialism stuff? But to say, it doesn't work. It's unrealistic. Free college tuition. That's unrealistic. Where was the money gonna come from? It's unrealistic. It's unattainable. $15 an hour minimum wage. It's unattainable. Unattainable, burners. I got news for you. It's not unattainable. That's a lie that you've been programmed into believing. Wake the fuck up, people. It's a fucking lie that's unattainable. So it's unattainable. We can't take a couple $1,000,000 to a couple $1 billion from the war campaign. People would rather put their tax money into killing people than investing in a better future for our kids. America, no wonder half of the world is laughing at us. America? No wonder. I'm laughing at us too, because I can't believe there's so much ignorance in our country. It just boggles my mind how much ignorance there is to say that these ideas of free education and free healthcare and free, to say it's unattainable, but yet it's perfectly realistic for us to spend money that we don't have, to spend the same money, on war, death, spending wasteful amounts of dollars on military spending for stuff that they don't even use, just like the latest nuclear technology. We bought 17 million Bradley tanks. We're only going to use about 15. But we bought 70 just in case. I don't know. That number's not based on anything. I just made it up. But they do waste a lot of money buying unnecessary shit. I know they do. I've read the studies. I can't remember the statistics, but there definitely has been a lot of wasteful, unnecessary military spending. And you know what? People would rather support murder than free healthcare. What? If they want to start a war, why don't they raise the war money out of their own pockets instead of coming to the taxpayers and using the taxpayers' money to finance murder? You say, but how is it murder? We're fighting for freedom of our country. We're bombing people so that our freedoms can be protected, so that they don't come over here and bomb us first. What about ISIS? What about ISIS, Josh? What about ISIS, Mad Hat? What about ISIS? We don't need that money to do something about ISIS? No, we don't need that money to do something about ISIS. Getting our nosy asses involved is what created ISIS. Getting involved over there in the first place. It's not our job, but well, are you going to say that when something happens to your daughter? Are you going to say that when ISIS invades and something happens to your family? What if ISIS did something to your family? What if ISIS comes over here and bombs us because we didn't go over there? What are you going to say then? I don't know what I'm going to say then. I don't know. I couldn't answer you that. You got me. But I think it's unrealistic to think that we can ever have complete security. It's unrealistic. You know, how much freedom are you willing to give up? How much are you willing to give up to feel safe that ISIS isn't going to attack you or attack us? How much freedom are you willing to give up? How much freedom are you willing to? You're willing to give up a future for our kids on something that might happen. You're willing to give up a future for your kids based on the fact that ISIS might attack, that terrorists may attack us, that there may be actions taken against our country. What about Korea? What about Korea? What about North Korea and them getting a hold of nukes? What do you hear about that on the news? What do you hear about that? About people wanting to send troops over there? Do you ever hear anything about that? I don't know. I haven't heard a lot about it. I haven't heard Trump talk about it. This big Muslim scare, this big terrorist scare. I don't know. What about Hillary Clinton? We haven't talked about Hillary yet. I have a kind of indifferent feeling on Hillary. I don't necessarily believe that she's the lying, corrupt, evil super genius that evil corporate puppet that people have painted her out to be. You know, I think I am uncomfortable with the way she flip-flops on certain issues. I am uncomfortable when one minute she says one minute she doesn't support anything higher than $12 an hour minimum wage, and then the next day, the next week she's at a rally in New York for $15 an hour minimum wage. That she's against same-sex marriage for all these years, and then in 2013 I think suddenly she's for it. The fact that she takes money from Wall Street, which, I mean, every other candidate does that too most of the time. But usually I don't get involved in politics. Usually I just sit there on the sidelines and just comment on it. But this election I wanted to get involved because there's a candidate, namely Bernie Sanders. There's a candidate right there, out there, that has our best intentions in mind and doesn't take money from Wall Street and big corporations and super PACs, whose main source of funding is individual donations from people like you and me. People, you're just average American citizen. That's who's financing his campaign, and that's what we need. We don't need somebody sponsored by big money. We don't need another establishment candidate. I don't care how progressive they are. We don't need another establishment candidate. That's my opinion. I'm not knocking anybody that supports Hillary, okay? I'm really not. It's not, it's not my job to tell you who you should and shouldn't be voting for. I'm just saying, take the time to think about it. She is financed by big money in a lot of aspects. She's financed by donations too, but there's a lot of big corporations that are financing her campaign, and I'm uncomfortable with that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. If you're a Trump supporter, I'll step on your toes all day long because I think he's a fucking idiot. But at the same time, I don't want any Trump supporters to get offended by me either. If you're my friend and you support Trump, go ahead and vote for that stupid moronic jizz bag. But, you know, don't be mad at me for expressing my opinion. You can call Bernie an asshole. You can call Bernie a socialist. I don't care. I don't get offended when people diss the person I'm backing. I mean, I'm going out of hand on this. Let's focus, Josh. Let's focus. So yeah, presidential election. House Bill number 2. That's probably next on our agenda to talk about. So I live in North Carolina, and I followed this the night that it was going on. I followed it hour by hour. You know, I kept up on it, and you know, I could not believe that it got passed and signed by the governor. If you guys don't know, I'm not going to take the time to go into detail, but North Carolina House Bill number 2 makes provisions. It's in response to a bill that Charlotte passed. This basically was a free, it was in favor of letting transgender people choose the restroom that they're most comfortable going to. You know what I mean? That's the essence. And then in response to this, the NC legislature called a special session to push this bill through that overrides that, and that says you have to go to the bathroom of your biological sex. And I think it's mainly in public and government facilities. I think if there's a businesses in the private sector can make their own rules about that. I think that's what Pat McCrory said. So I don't know. Phone just fucking went off. I lost track. House Bill number 2. But the other provisions are what's more scary. Basically making it legal to discriminate against the LGBT community. Basically, in a nutshell. Now, earlier, a couple days ago, Pat McCrory made this video and came out and said, well, I'm going to make special, executive orders to ensure that actually there is protections against discrimination for our LGBT friends. So I don't know what's going on with House Bill number 2. There's going to be lots of boycotts. But how do people support this bill as they say, well, my children, protecting your women and children, that's just something to hide behind. If a rapist, if somebody is willing to go to the lengths to commit child rape, do you think a bathroom law is really going to stop them? Or what's the next thing we're going to have, dick checkers at the bathroom door? Let me see your dick. Or if you're a woman, and then women wouldn't let that happen. That'd be even more an invasion of privacy, having somebody stand at the door. Let me see your fucking pussy. Let me make sure you're a woman and you're not a peeping Tom. Let me see your vag. Show me your vag. That birth certificate could be a forgery. I want the long form. Anyway, wake the fuck up, people. A bathroom, I think there's a common thread in this video so far. And one of the common thread you cannot, if you give up your freedom, if you're willing to give up freedom to ensure security, you're not going to have either. That's basically a paraphrase of a Benjamin Franklin quote, but it still rings true. You're going to give up both. You're going to end up giving up both if you sacrifice even just a little bit of freedom for the promise and illusion of safety and security, you're not going to have security, and you're not going to have freedom. You're just giving up freedom. You're not gaining any more security. You can't make the world completely safe from rapists and molesters. I mean, that's a scary fact, but you can't make your bathroom safe by passing these laws. Which will segue into the last part of this video, and goddamn, it's turning into a long one. Revolution. That is what is going to solve these problems. That's what's going to get big money out of politics. That's what's going to make your bathrooms and your world safe from ISIS, safe from corporate sharks. That's going to save your world from murderers and climate change. Revolution. And not a revolution with guns, not a revolution with bombs, a revolution of ideas, a revolution of consciousness, a revolution of awareness, a revolution in which our ideas about the nature of life change, where our values change, where our goals change. I'm talking about the kind of revolution as like the kinds that were started by Martin Luther King, a revolution where we stand up and say, no, we're not going to fucking sit down. We're not going to take this. We are going to keep going and keep going and keep pushing for free healthcare, and keep pushing for free tuition, keep pushing for the rich to pay their fair share, keep pushing for the redistribution of wealth, keep pushing so that tax loopholes can't make people into super millionaires, keep pushing so that people are more tolerant. Keep pushing for tolerance. Keep pushing for LGBT rights. Keep pushing for people's freedom of ideas and freedom of speeches and freedom to do as is their right to do. Freedom of spirituality. To keep pushing to revolution against the corporate machine, against the system, against Big Brother, against ignorance, the revolution against ignorance. That is what the next revolution needs to be, the revolution against ignorance and corruption, to get big money out of politics. And it starts in consciousness, it starts in your mind and in your spirit. It doesn't, if we go out with guns blazing, we could bomb, we could bomb the Capitol building, we could fight and riot to try to overthrow the government and try to overthrow the Federal Reserve and try to overthrow the big corporations, but that's not going to work. It's just going to come back in another form until our consciousness changes, until our ideals change, until our value systems change as a nation and as a planet, until our value systems change, until we shift our ideas and evolve our ideas and evolve our understandings and beliefs. That is when revolution happens. It happens in your mind. It happens in your ideas, in your thoughts, in your consciousness, in your awareness, and in your soul. It starts in the deep core of your being. It doesn't. An outward revolution is never going to accomplish anything without an inward revolution. So wake up. I'm not saying vote for Bernie. I'm not saying vote for Hillary. I'm not even saying go out and vote. I'm saying change your ideals and realize that some of this stuff is attainable. That healthcare for all is attainable. That equal rights for everyone, not just LGBT, but everyone, equal rights for everyone is attainable. The end of terrorism and war is attainable. Not by military bombing, not by nukes, not by banning Muslims from coming into the country, not from eradicating them all, not from a violent struggle, not from an upheaval, but from revolution in ideas. Because when your ideas change, and when more people's ideas change, then the mindset won't be there. When the ideals change and people start seeing women as equal, rape culture will disappear. When people's ideals change about religion and God, then religion and religious people will no longer be suckered into the idea that killing for God is a good thing. When people's ideals change, your ideas have to change, your beliefs have to change. Ignorance has to be abolished. There's one thing we need to wage war on. We never hear this in the country. We've got the war on homelessness, the war on poverty, the war on drugs, the war on terror. Do we have a war on ignorance? No. Because the owners of this country want you ignorant. They want you ignorant so that you won't rock their boat. So, guess what? Ideals. Revolution in your mind. First. I'm Mad Hat, starting the war on ignorance. If you want to join the troops in the war on ignorance, subscribe. Get out. Tell people. Try to open people's minds. I'm Mad Hat. This video is too long. I'm out of here. Wake the fuck up. Peace, motherfuckers.